Oh,
Hello and welcome to the episode of Survivor Social where we don't have an intro. My name is David and I'm so excited to be talking with Tegwith here today about Survivor 45 episode 12. So many good things to get into. Tegwith, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm super excited to talk to you about the episode. Crazy day at work today, but I'm happy that I'm able to kind of like decompress and talk to you about Survivor. It's going to be great. How are you doing?
Heck yeah, totally same. Sometimes life is crazy, but Survivor can be a constant, which is crazy that something so chaotic and full of buffoonery, quite frankly, can be a constant source of calm and consistency in my life. But that's one of the many reasons we love this crazy show.
I know, absolutely. The best thing about Survivor, or not the best thing, but one of the great things about Survivor is you can always count on it being chaotic, and sometimes you just need that. You know what I mean?
Heck freaking yeah. And who are you rooting for as we go into this finale next week?
I'm rooting for the fans. But see, the thing is, I can't say who I want to win because my followers on TikTok, if that person goes home, they'll be upset at me because I have like a curse where I thought Caleb was going to win and then obviously got voted out. And then immediately after, I switched it to Kelly and then she got voted out. And then immediately after that, I switched it to Emily and then she got voted out. So I feel like I can't, you know, but I'm
Yeah.
rooting for P.
All right. I'm glad we're on the same page there.
D
But
train.
I really hope that you are not, you know, setting her up for a downward slide, especially because she had a great episode, which we will get into. Yeah.
But you
Oh
think he's
well.
going to win?
I personally think it's D. I've been saying D for a hot minute now, and I am full on the D train.
On the D train. Whoop,
Choo
whoop.
choo. Seriously.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to get into this episode, but before we get started, make sure to subscribe to Survivor Now and Survivor Social wherever you are listening, whether that be Spotify, YouTube. You want to check us out at Survivor Socialites on Instagram or send us an email at survivorsocialpod@gmail.com and we will answer your questions right freaking here. Speaking of which, we have a few questions from our listeners. The first of which is from Cal, who emails and asks if you could see anyone back on Survivor. Doesn't matter how old they are, who they are, when they played, who would it be? I'm assuming the stipulation is they have to be alive, so we'll go with that.
That is a very difficult question.
Just
That's
one
like
person.
that is like asking what my favorite cuisine is or my favorite movie. It's like it's just like it changes all the time. Okay, off the top of my head right now, if I could see any singular person back on Survivor, it would if you're asking right now, Tegwith right now would say Taj.
Taj.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Why?
I think she's just really interesting. I really enjoyed watching her on the screen. I thought she was a really compelling character. I think she's not only interesting from the survivor aspect, I also think she gives good TV. Like she's a performer. So she knows how to kind of and Survivor is a TV show. Like I always say, first and foremost, it's a TV show, and then it's a game. But I think that I don't know. I like her a lot.
I love Taj, and I think because of the fact that JT and Steven have come back so many times, not so many times, but collectively we've seen both of them represented, we remember them more and we don't remember Taj as much. And she was just as part of that Jalapao group, and she was very memorable, super endearing. If she had made it to the end, she would have had a really, really strong case of winning. So you're right. And she's a performer. SWV, amazing singer, amazing performer, had a reality TV show all about her life. So
Mhm.
clearly she's an engaging person. So I very much endorse that choice. Taj, I know you've gone on record saying that you do not want to come back to Survivor, but if you did,
You
there
would
are at least two people and probably millions of others who would be elated to see you.
Yeah.
So
And that's why I chose Taj for this one because it's like any one person without circumstance. Because I know that she's gone on record saying that she doesn't want to come back, and I get that. But if it's like a perfect world for like what I would want, I just love her. So who would
yeah,
you do? Who is the person that you want to see back? One person out of all of Survivor.
This is incredibly tough. Cal, I appreciate you sending this question in, but it's making me choose between like my it's like you don't choose between your children. Like you love them all, right?
Mhm.
But I'm gonna say Bobby John Drinkard of Survivor Palau and Survivor Guatemala fame.
I
Because
love that answer. I love that answer.
just so unhinged. She's like 1 minute this perfect Southern gentleman, and then the next minute he's like bashing himself on the head, and he's got like blood on his chest, and he's running up to Jamie Newton and screaming at him and saying words that are pretty much unintelligible. Just
That is such a good answer. Ryan from the corner, he we heard a little bit from him, and he said he whispered Colleen Haskell.
mm,
I think that's a
yeah,
that's a great one. I mean, how young was she on the first season? She was like 22, right?
yeah, early 20s.
So
Wow.
she's still in her like she's still young enough. It's not like she's still what in her like 40s probably now, 45-ish.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She could definitely come back. I think that's a great one. People in the chat. So for those of you who are on lives in the different way, I always go live on TikTok as well. A lot of people in the chat are saying Suri,
Mm.
Suri, which I totally agree with. Somebody said Randy, which I love, which is so chaotic and fun. And then you've got someone saying Devin from Heroes, Healers, Hustlers.
All great choices.
I
All
know.
great choices. Personally, it was an easy question only because I always think about Bobby John Drinkard. I always think about that scene in that challenge during Palau where they have to eat, and it's just him and Stephanie on Oolong, and there's balut in his mouth, and he's so sad. And the vivid image of a sad Bobby John Drinkard with balut in his mouth, and he can't even speak, and he realizes he has to go like back to tribal council. He's just like,
Oh,
I love that. I love you, Bobby John. But
that's such a good answer.
thank you. You too, Taj. Quality. Colleen.
Honestly, I like
Quality.
that our answers were kind of like off the radar. Not like as much as I would love to have Suri back. I think that's a great answer. I feel like I love that both of ours were kind of like,
Yeah.
the
Come
norm.
on, some flavor. Come on, people.
Yeah, start a social. We're different, we're cool.
So our next question, speaking of Randy Bailey, our next question comes from Maya on Instagram. She says, "Thanks for always answering my questions. Tegwith, which Survivor contestant do you see yourself as the most, and which one do you think you'd have the most beef with? And David, I know you said you like Rafe, but I think you'd be more like Randy Bailey if he was young. Who would you have beef with?" Maya, I think I have beef with you. I think I have beef with you.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Okay. Maya, great question. I actually, weirdly enough, asked this question on my TikTok page the other day. Like, I asked people who they thought that I was like. I got a whole myriad of answers, which I kind of love. But so I think I look like a couple of contestants, but that's not actually helping how I would actually like play. I don't know. It's like sometimes I think that I would play kind of like I compared myself to Shane.
Shane Powers?
Yeah, sometimes I'm like I feel like I'd be like chaotic and like weird. But then oh, Ryan just said T-Bird. I actually haven't heard T-Bird before. That's nice. I like that. I feel like no, I actually kind of think T-Bird's a good one because I feel like I would lie. I feel like I would feel bad about something and then lie about it and then just like continue about it. I mean, yeah, I would just like blame somebody else and I wouldn't be like, yeah, you did that. I didn't do that. I definitely didn't vote Lex. Or I would say, what's her name? Blonde Andrea Belke, maybe.
Oh, I see that.
But
She's very consistent,
yeah,
and people underestimate her, but she's kind of good at everything.
yeah. So maybe those, but also I have no idea. You know what I mean? Like I've never been put in that situation before, so I have no idea how well I could do in that, world. But the person that I would have beef with, I mean, the easy answer is Russell. Like I actively don't like Russell. So that's probably who I would have beef with. That's not like a fun answer. That's just like the correct answer.
No, but it's true. I mean, come on, most people would have to say the same. Oof. I'm not sure who who I would be like, but apparently I would be more like Randy Bailey if he was young, which I actually take as quite a compliment in many ways because I absolutely love Randy Bailey. And Maya, not that you asked because you've put me in this role of being Randy Bailey, but I don't know who I would play as. What do you think, Tegwith? Who do you think?
I honestly think that you have a really good you're really good at reading people, and you have a really good social kind of way to maybe not disarm people with like kindness almost, but I think that you're really really smart. So
Thanks.
honestly, I think Rafe is a great comparison, number 1. Um but I would also say, like, even keeping it in Guatemala, I know Brian Corden, and you kind of remind me of Brian in like some ways. And so I know that's not, you don't want to get compared to someone who's preseason, I mean pre-jury, but I think he would have been a great player if he, made it a little bit
Oh my
obviously
gosh, yeah.
further. Um
I am flattered in all ways for any comparison to anyone from Guatemala whose name isn't Brooke Struck or Lydia, or actually I take that back. But the people that you compared me to, I'm very flattered, so thank you. And I think if I was gonna have beef with anyone, it would be Drew because he's so cocky. And we can get into it when we talk about the episode, but it turns me off so much in like competitive situations where there are people who are cocky and can't always back it up. And I feel like
mm,
this was the perfect episode for people who may have not loved Drew Basile. And again, in the context of the game, I bet he's a wonderful, magnificent, amazing person
yes.
outside of the game. I'm just saying, in the context of this game, I was not the biggest fan of him. And this episode was a sweet treat that I wasn't expecting. So thanks. Thanks, everyone.
That's so funny.
All
So
right.
what are your overall feelings on the episode?
The overall episode was sort of like a sweet treat, as I said, but it was exactly what you expected. You know, and I'm going to do a contrived analogy, just like Drew, just to honor him. You know, when you're walking up to a plate of cookies and you have that last minute thought of, oh my God, these aren't chocolate chip, they're raisin.
Mhm.
But these actually were chocolate chip cookies. The things went like you expected them to go, and it was fulfilling. We got a helicopter ride. We got Drew being bitter. We got Jake being like, nope, don't be bitter. We got Julie tackling Drew. We got all these things that I found to be quite entertaining. And again, my winner pick, D, is in the driver's seat. So I could not have anything else better to say about this episode. What about
Was
you?
D your day 1 winner pick?
I didn't have a winner pick day 1. I'm gonna be honest. Someone pull up the tapes of like episode 1 of this season of Survivor Social where I say someone's name, but I really don't remember. But I think D was the first person. I think maybe on episode 3 or 4 where I said I think she's a sleeper pick, but I want to pick her.
Yeah. I think D. I have a lot of people in my comments saying how much they like were preseason, and then I also have people in my comments saying like, oh. I've chosen my winner pick, and now it's D. And I'm like, you just now chose your winner pick. I love that. I think that we should all do that. I think we should all only wait until the penultimate episode to choose our winner picks.
I think that's a great idea. Because 85% of the story is already told.
Exactly.
You've already been given the context clues. You already know who the jury is mostly consisting of. So I say, if you're a betting person, make your decision right before the finale. I think it's a great idea.
Probably won't win as much if you choose it right before the finale, but that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, but you'll.
The episode was fine,
Yeah.
Like, wait, hold on. Is the picture still Jake smiling?
It is still Jake smiling.
Funny, but it's also because he has an idol now, so it makes sense. It makes sense.
True. That's true, because last time he was smiling and he really didn't have a reason, and this time he has many reasons. Actually, he's had a reason the entire time. He's on Survivor.
He's on Survivor. We're playing Survivor. I love Jake so much. I really do. I love him so much. Oh my gosh. But do you want to get into the episode?
We sure will. Okay, so on the Previously On, we see recaps about Austin and Dee's showman / strong relationship, whatever it is, because I was surprised that well, let me back up for a second. I know that when people are in these situations and they're really close and spend a lot of time with each other, things move fast, right? And so you'll tend to say things like, I love you, or I'm going to be your best friend forever and ever. And you say those things in these high pressure situations because you are bonded to people because it's really intense and you got to rely on them. And Austin and Dee have been exchanging the ILYs to each other, the illies to each other. And honestly, the illies really surprised me. Like, that's faster than Romber did on All Stars, unless I'm wrong. But
I trust your knowledge of Survivor way more than mine.
well, I don't even remember who I said was my winner pick on the first episode of this podcast, so I can't be trusted
That's
anymore.
not your Survivor knowledge. That's your own knowledge.
That's true. That's true.
No, can I just say this showmance came out of left field for me. And I think it's maybe I like last episode, I just did not see this coming. I didn't see, I felt like I didn't even see that kind of relationship even bubbling up. You know, it just felt like it was just came out of left field. And I was like, wait, what's happening right now? And that's why I feel like it feels so not, some people were saying that it felt forced. I don't think it feels forced. I just think it feels like it was sprung on us. Like we're 11 episodes in when it came up. I was like, how did we, and they've been together like the entire time. How are we only now figuring out that they had feelings for each other?
It's strange, but I do believe that it was probably there the entire time, or at least it happened naturally for them. I don't think that it was forced. I also
Well, I
don't
mean,
wait, I'm confused. Are people saying that they think it's forced in real life, or they think it's forced based on the edit?
Forced based on the edit. Like like it wasn't really in the edit at all for a long time. Unless and then in episode 11 we heard about it all of a sudden. But it's like they had been together this whole time. It's not like they just met, but it wasn't being told in the edit. And so when it was told in the edit, we're like, wait, what's going on? I mean, obviously their feelings for each other are very real, right? But it's just like the fact that the survivors didn't tell us about it is why I feel like people are kind of shocked about it.
You know, we had such important building blocks earlier in the season about both Dee and Austin that maybe that wasn't the priority. Maybe the priority really was Dee's big toe.
Yeah.
Maybe we didn't really need to see the romance blooming. Like the phalanges and the little piggies were the priority.
As they should be. They should always be the priority. Random things such as toes and whatever sandwiches should always be the priority.
Toes and sandwiches, you heard it here first, folks. That is always the priority on Survivor, and especially Survivor Social.
Yeah.
And
I have a quick question though for you. So we really didn't talk about the episode last week.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel about Austin spilling the beans?
Everyone likes to spill the beans. Everyone thinks that they are Kevin in an episode of The Office where he's holding the chili and then just like spilling it all over the floor. And I don't care if your name is Austin. I don't care if your name is Katurah. I don't care who it is. If you have those magic beans, try to not spill them everywhere.
Yeah.
I know that you're probably itching to share things with people. I know that when you're sitting on a secret, it can be fun and interesting and feel like a way to bond with people, but certain information should not be shared. And I think that although the moment we saw today in the episode with Katurah and Dee talking to each other, oh my God, Drew, and they have that funny moment where they both say it at the same time, like hilarious, loved it, wonderful. But that was bad on Katurah's part, in my opinion. You don't, just because you can tell someone something, doesn't mean you should always tell someone something.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, I get where he's coming from. It's probably very difficult, but Survivor has never pretended to be an easy game, right? Survivor has always been a really difficult game. And that's why you gotta, but I also want to say that means that Dee's playing a really good social game. Because if Dee has somebody who feels like they have to tell you something, or else some bad things will happen, that means that they feel that maybe you're running things and they have to run something by you. You know what I mean? And I think that's just like shows how strong her social game is. And the fact that she was also able to convince Julie to not write down anybody else's name and
True.
keep her other number one. That's wild to me. That's another good social game, good strategy, good social. And then she showed in this episode how her strategy was strong because she could, unlike Austin, separate the emotional and the gameplay, which is just impressive. It's impressive.
That is incredibly impressive. And although we see some people having like an upswing, like our good friend Jake, Dee has been consistent. And I
Mhm.
think that is what the fact that she's never taken her foot off the gas is
Mm.
probably what's going to cinch her the win if we're lucky. But
Yeah.
we also get some information about the fact that Dee says, I'm going to write your name down to Julie during the last vote and make people think we hate each other and I think make people think we're against each other. Personally, if I was in that position, I would have been skeptical if I was Julie. Because if someone says, I'm not going to write your name down, but I'm with you, I would know in my heart of hearts it's because she wants to keep those connections with everybody else.
Mhm.
And I understand, like, maybe it was fun to play along and be like, we're going to be mad at each other. But
Mhm.
personally, I would be very skeptical of Dee. I know she was Julie's number one ally and she still is, but how would you have responded to that if your number one ally says, I'm still going to vote for you, but like, don't worry, it's only because we get to act like we're mad at each other now.
Yeah, I don't know because I think that's a very interesting thing to bring up because I kind of when I saw that it reminded me of when Marianne had an idol and then had played her idol because she didn't want to go home. Obviously, that's why you play your idol. And then found another idol and then didn't tell anybody about the idol. But the idol that she had played, everyone knew about already. It was a public idol, everybody knew about it. So then when she had her second idol, it was a secret idol and no one knew about it and she didn't tell anybody. And I kind of like this idea of having something public, burning it, and then getting it again, like
Mhm.
still having it because it's like, oh, they already had this, it's not going to happen again or whatever. And I kind of was equating that Dee and Julie's alliance was kind of like that. And I kind of think it's interesting to have this kind of like hidden alliance where alliances aren't truly hidden really ever in Survivor. It's not like on Big Brother where I've been told that you can just like cross paths in the hallway and that's your alliance. In Survivor, people know who you're aligned to because it's like you're in survival mode. So who you're spending time with is who you're aligned with usually. And so I kind of thought that this was an interesting thing and maybe because I'm looking at it from Dee's perspective and not so much Julie's perspective, because Dee now has this like secret person that she's actually working with, but maybe not everyone knows. I kind of thought it was interesting, but now that we're kind of looking at it more from Julie's perspective, it is like a fun thing to do, but I don't know if it's actually benefiting Julie's gameplay. Um, and and what is the point of her writing Julie's name down if not to keep ties with other people? And so,
Right.
putting it into that kind of perspective for Julie, probably not the right thing to do, but for Dee, genius.
Of course, and the fact that she got away with it, and
Yeah,
Mama J is just happy to be there and think that
yeah,
now Mama J thinks that she's in the driver's seat. So what was beautiful and really powerful about Dee's move is that she is getting her way, and she's also thinking that Julie is getting her way and thinking that she's in control after just being at the bottom,
yep,
essentially. So masterclass by Dee. Very, very impressed.
yeah.
And we'll see what goes on. Would you have taken Emily out? Not you, Tegwith, the fan and lover of all things Emily Flippin, financial analyst, but as player, I want $1 million, get out of my way. I'm gonna knock you over,
Okay,
Tegwith.
so I do think that if you're on that island and you see Emily and you see how she's playing and she makes it to the end, I think she's winning, right? So you need to get her out at some point. But here's the thing. I don't know that I really want to sit next to people who have had a similar game to me. Austin, you've played with Austin for a long time. You actively know that Austin has an idol. And my number one person just told me that Austin was also her number one. So if I'm Julie, I feel like that is the red flag. And now, yes, I could, in theory, maybe be making Dean mad at me by voting out Austin, by going for Austin. But, you know, you're so close to the game. Julie's very good at in the previously has been very good at the challenges. She's made it really close to a lot of them. And so I think that I would maybe go for somebody within the alliance. But it's not because I don't think Emily's a threat. It's because I actively know that Austin has an idol, and Austin is somebody as my number one's number one. And those two things combined to me say is like dangerous.
It is.
So I don't know if that's, I don't know. I don't know. I think there's also my bias coming through of how much I do like Emily, but I do think if I'm out there on the island, Emily needs to go. Like she needs to go, and she has only won one challenge, and it's been a reward. So I feel like I don't think she's gonna go on an immunity win or like an immunity streak. So I feel like there's another chance for me to go for her.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Austin is good at challenges and he has an idol. So to me, that spells like a bigger problem than something else. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Would you
Yeah,
have
I'm on
gone
this.
for Emily, or would you have gone for somebody else? It doesn't have to be Austin.
I think I probably would have gone for someone in the Reba 4. Like, I think that it would have been smart to break that group up. Personally, I've always been on the let's get Drew out train. But I think Austin or Drew both would have been good choices in their own right. But either way, they're
Yeah.
still here. We get back from tribal, things are awkward. And people know that they're gonna have to act pissed, and I mean specifically Dee and Julie. And if I was in this situation and I was prompted to be mad at someone and lie about it, I would be screaming at Dee if I was Julie. And it's easier in the dark because you can emote and you can get loud and angry and people can't pick up on your expressions, and maybe they can't tell that you're lying, and maybe you're laughing through parts of it. So I really would have gone at it. Would you have, used your acting skills and hammed it up? Because I probably would have made a moment out of it, if I'm being honest.
So here's the thing, there's this like scale of like the level of how intense actors, like the intensity scale. I don't know if there's a real name for it. But when in college, when we were studying like things like this, people sometimes think that like the power scale or whatever, if the CEO comes into the office or whatever, that they're acting like the one in charge, that they're acting like they've got something to prove, that they're acting like this. But actually the person who's doing that is probably not the one who's at level 10. It's probably the person who's at level 7, because the person at level 7 has something to prove, whereas the person at level 10 doesn't have anything to prove. So if I'm Julie, I would probably be acting more smug than anything. Like I would be pissed, but I'd be like, I'm still here. So your shot failed. And then just not talk to Dee. Don't entertain anything. And instead of like hamming it up, because sometimes people can see through that kind of a thing. So instead of like, screaming and yelling, because it seems out of Julie's character. We haven't really seen her do that. And so if you're somebody who's already been established to like get upset really easily and all this stuff, then maybe that's the way to go. But Julie doesn't seem like somebody who would blow up like that, especially since she's seen her name on the paper a couple of times. So it's not like the first time you've seen her name.
But this was the biggest slight from her alliance. This was the biggest slight where it was all like Reba people. And so I think if anything would have made her explode or have a bigger reaction than normal, I think this would have merited it. And I'm not necessarily saying like bring out the pyrotechnics and the smoke machine, which I just like for the snap, crackle, and pop. But I do think that I don't know. I just would have used this as an opportunity to like sort of lay it on thick. But maybe you're right. I think that's probably not necessarily the best course of action though, because you don't have to. And I think if Julie came at it from the parental, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed perspective, that could have been really powerful too.
Or like sad, like being like, I just don't understand why it was me this time. Like I just got the vibe that something was wrong. And it's just honestly like, why is it so early? I thought we were working together. Like if you're just like really sad, then that's also like a different kind of, emoting. And then maybe just be like, like go through the stages of grief, denial, then whatever it is. But I feel like, it's a very interesting thing to have to lie about your emotions like that. And I kind of really love that. One of the things I love about Survivors, that this thing does come into play. You have to figure out That's why I always say I think people should take improv classes before they go out onto Survivor. I think it's a very good way to train your brain, especially if you make it to Final Tribal Council, to like get these like bounce off these questions and say yes and keep working. But also like if you're trying to hide a conversation, you know, if somebody comes up behind you and you're talking about them, the being able to change the conversation really quickly and like thinking on your feet like that. I think everybody, if you ever get cast on Survivor, you should go take improv classes. And I truly believe that it helps.
I completely agree. And if you're going from the Gandia Johnson School of Improv, it's yes and go fuck yourself. And honestly, that is a motto that I live by. But you're right, that ability to change what you're saying at the drop of a hat is invaluable. And I always think back to that scene of Sandra in Game Changers where someone comes up and she's talking to her ally and she immediately switches the conversation to something about like chocolate chip cookies or something, and it's just so mundane, but her ability to switch so effortlessly, not miss a beat, not change her tone, not make it seem suspicious is, and that's why she's a 2-time winner, baby. I don't care if you guys think she didn't play well either of her times. You can go, you know what you can do.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's very true. Levels, improv, Tegwith, you should start putting on classes.
Just my 2 cents, just my little 2 cents.
Adam Klein's got his casting thing, and you can have your. I am going to be the one to train you to do improv before you get on Survivor.
Tegwith School of Improv, Survivor Edition. That's what we're doing.
I'm obsessed. I'm absolutely obsessed. Yeah, just wait until the off season, guys. We've got a whole thing planned.
Sure.
Sure.
No,
yes,
but speaking of improv, the next morning, Katurah goes and looks for idols, right? And she gets caught. This is another thing that could be useful if you need to think on your feet, because if you're idol hunting, you don't want it to be, you know, known. You got to think of a lie. You got to think of why you're over on this off the beaten path that no one walks down, like lie. You know what I mean? Katurah didn't.
And you know what the hardest part for Katurah is? Her scapegoat, Bruce, wasn't there anymore. I feel like when in doubt, you could just say yes and Bruce. But without Bruce, it's like, well, what do you got? So I can understand why she was a little bit frazzled. But I do want to go back for 1 second and talk about the moment where they're all sitting on the beach together, specifically Drew, Austin, and Dee. Julie tackles Drew and is like, remember the good old days? And then we get this really annoying confessional from Drew of him being butthurt, which I do understand. I really do. But I don't care and I don't feel bad for him. Because as we'll hear later in the episode, he thinks he's been controlling the entire post-merge. Mm-hmm. So, come on. That's a little myopic, my friend. Like,
I will say, I do. What he said essentially was, I'm sad that she's still here, and I'm sad that like obviously my plan didn't work out, but how dare she still be in the game? Like, I can't believe she saved herself. How dare she? Which is so funny to me. Of course she's gonna try to save herself. I mean,
people want to win the game of Survivor when they go play it. This is totally not okay. I know he makes a lot of comparisons to the whole JT Steven thing, and people were willing to throw down their entire games for JT Thomas, but you are not JT. You do not have the same charismatic skill that JT has, and it's also a different era of the game. You're being cast with people who are true fans, whereas people who are cast in Tocantins, maybe not all of them really cared about winning the game. Maybe people were willing to throw their game away, but Julie is not going to throw away her game. She's a savvy lawyer, and you better step aside, Drew.
You better.
So, like you said, Katurah is looking for the idol, and Austin finds her, and Katurah jumps, and she's scared, and then Austin tries to discourage her from looking for the idol, which, I mean, I guess I understand his reasoning, and he uses the excuse, oh, it'll look suspicious, and Julie will be suspicious. But like, come on. At this point in the game, Katurah is smart enough to know that she is not in that core group and she has to do something to save her own butt. And I cannot blame her for doing that, but that's a really flimsy, like, excuse from Austin. I don't know.
I agree. I think, you know, I think it's silly to kind of, unless you're really good at it, silly to try to take somebody else's, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like driving the game away. Like not driving the game, but like of course you're going to go play for yourself. Like you're going out there to play for yourself and for your family and for your loved ones. You're not playing for other people's games. And I think people, especially people in the Reba 4 who've been in power for such a long time, don't really get why other people are also playing. Does that make sense?
They should just lay down and just
Yeah.
take it because their game is over and we have
Yeah.
the majority. It's like, no, people are still gonna play,
Yeah.
and they're gonna use as many tricks that they can find from, I was gonna say up their sleeve, but apparently now it's just in the bamboo of the rafts
Gosh.
now, which
So
I
funny.
actually found pretty cool. But I don't know. I feel like Austin, I think people think a lot about playing from the bottom and how to play when things are really up in the air. But I do think that some people would benefit from thinking about how to play from the top and maintaining that security and that control, because that can go away very quickly if people undermine you and you are in good, and if you are in good control of them. I don't know.
Absolutely. My big theory, my big sports theory, which is not at all correct, it's just my theory, is that it's not a good thing to have the lead early on, because I think it brings about complacency. And when you think you're really good and you just deserve the win, then I think you stop trying. And then for example, in college, my college football team my junior year, I think, was undefeated, was really, very whatever. And then the person, when we played Columbia, who has famously a bad football team, they're not very good at sports, Columbia, specifically football. We lost, or we almost lost, or something like that. And I remember the football players were like totally like, I can't believe this happened. And I'm like, yeah, it's because you were walking around this entire time thinking that you already won the game. When you think you already won the game, you stop trying and you
Mhm.
start resting, and you don't actually give it your all, and you don't actually put forth all of your effort. And so you have to, if you're lucky enough to be playing from the top, you have to realize that at any moment, especially in a game like Survivor, where there are idols and advantages and twists and turns and lost votes and everything, that can be ripped from you at any moment. And so you have to play like it's being going to be ripped from you. And that's why returnees are typically better at Survivor than, in my opinion, than their first time out, because they know what it feels like to either be voted out, or they know what it feels like when somebody's like plotting against you, or when they know what that's like. And so they can play with that knowledge. But when you're just playing from the top and you don't know what that's like, you're not as good as like at like, shifting and moving and grooving. And so I feel like some of the gameplay from the Reba 4, we're kind of seeing that a little bit.
I think so too, and I think that this might be a symptom of the fact that it's the late game, because
Mhm.
the late game, especially in the new era, is one of the only things that is consistent. We know that things are going to get weird in the pre-merge, but we don't know how. Will there
Mhm.
be a tribe swap? Will there be the hourglass twist? I hope not. Will there be who knows what kind of weird shit?
Mhm.
But the end of the game seems to be pretty stable. We
Mhm.
know that there's going to be Final Four fire making. We know that they're probably going to go to a new beach at Final Five. We know that idols generally expire at a certain point. So people become complacent because they think they know what's coming. And I
Mhm.
do think that is partially a symptom of it being the late game. And I
Mhm.
think that may be making it worse for them. What do you think of this?
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's a little bit more straightforward. I mean, we've even heard it in the confessionals that people are saying that's easier in the late game. We've heard Julie say it. We've heard Drew say it. I think we've heard somebody else. Heard a couple people say it. And tribal, not confessionals, and tribal council. They're like, yeah, it's a little bit easier. Yeah, we got the hard thing was those people over in the jury. Okay, a little bit of
Come on,
pandering,
stop. Yeah, exactly. Stop pandering.
but good for you. I mean, good. You do what you got to do. I get it. I get it. But like,
Yeah.
it gets, you're a little bit more used to the game, you're used to the pace, you're used to all this stuff, and you pretty much know how it's going to kind of go out at near the end. So I totally agree with that 100%.
Yeah, and I think it's also interesting because, as you were saying, there is this openness about the ease of certain aspects of this part of the game. We do hear Drew say at Tribal Council, "Well, I think if I make it through tonight, like I see myself at the end, and everything's all good." And very cocky. And that's one of those cases where you can never, it's never a good thing to say that you feel completely comfortable. Unless there is an immunity necklace around your neck, do not say to other people that you feel comfortable, because that's going to make them think, oh, well, that's a good person to target because they won't see it coming. And we can all agree that we heard that person say that they feel comfortable and we're not comfortable. So that makes them different than us. And that means that they're a good person to target. So do not say that ever.
Yeah. Also, don't say it when you're in confessional, because then they'll use it against you when you're about to go home.
Oh, that's meta. I hadn't even thought that far. My policy is say like whatever the hell you want to in confessional, but that's a really good point because they
No,
could
say
use
whatever
that.
you want in confessional, but I just know that if you say at some point, if you say, I feel really comfortable and I feel like I've got the game down pat, they're gonna, even if you said that like day 3 and you're going home day 30, well, no, it's not day 30s anymore, day 25, they're going to still use that. They're going to find a way to use that. They love it. They love to make you look silly. Love to make you look like a silly, goofy person who said something that they shouldn't have. You know what I mean?
That's a very good point. Yeah. Wow. This has become such a meta podcast. And I wanted to talk about the whole meta of it all because we hear two things for me that stuck out a lot that was self-referential to the game. First, we hear Katurah saying, I have to build my resume and no one's going to respect me. And it's the late game and I got to do something to set myself apart. And as soon as we hear the word resume, I automatically roll my eyes because I'm like, game bot. But it is important. I'm pretty sure she says it in confessional when she's looking for her idol.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we also hear from Jake, who says that he's a wolf in goat's clothing, which I thought was chef's kiss.
One of the best quotes from Survivor, in my opinion, ever. Like, literally, it's so good.
I completely agree. Am I the mobster? And a wolf in goat's clothing, top 10 of the new era, and the latter being one of the top 10, I'd say, of the entire series.
Yeah, it's so good.
So good.
Keep my fantasy Survivor League next season being wolf in goat's clothing. Like, it's such a good line. Because Erica said that she kept saying like she was what did she say? Wolf in
sheep's clothing.
And she just said the normal thing, wolf in sheep's clothing. And so like the fact that Jake just like twisted it and made it amazing, made it so good. Makes me really happy. It makes me incredibly, incredibly happy.
Great.
I just love Jake. Great Jake episode.
I agree. You know what? He really earned his place on this screen today. So
he really did. He was just like funny, and he always is. But positive.
Yeah, and he's been a real human person who's shown instances of not being positive, of being downtrodden, of getting upset, of getting shocked and surprised, and now positive. And that's what I love about him. He's been an underdog. He's been all the things. Jake, all right, this is turning into a I Love Jake podcast, and I know we could do that all day, but
we literally could.
We got to keep it moving. So before we get to the reward challenge, one of the things that really sticks with me is that Drew thinks he can convince Julie that they can be Reba 4 again till the end. And come on, Julie was probably, what's the quote? I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night. Mm-hmm. Julie is not going to get duped by this. Whether she is a lawyer or not, Julie has proven herself, but she is a lawyer. I'm just saying, it doesn't matter. Nobody should be duped by this. This is a feeble attempt on Drew's part, and I kind of chuckled, like, come on.
But here's in defense of Drew. What are you gonna say? What are you gonna go say to Julie? Like, are you just gonna pretend that you're never gonna work with her again ever? But you've got to figure out something to say. What would you say to Julie instead? Because I feel like that's a little bit of a difficult, like, it's a difficult bridge to repair. I think that's something that you can't really repair, but you gotta like pretend.
Depends on how messy we're gonna be, because I would say, well, there were 2 other people in our old Reba alliance who were ready to take you out, and I was more swayed by them, like, or you could throw Austin under the bus, or you could throw Dee under the bus, which that would be a lie, but you have to take a gamble and say, they were saying they were going to vote you, and I didn't really feel like I had a choice, and that was that, but, clearly they're willing to break these bonds like nobody's business. So if you're interested in taking one of them out, I think we should strike now because they're clearly not loyal people. And they told me right before Tribal, and I didn't have a chance to make up my mind, and I just had to go, and I had to vote with them because they didn't give me any other option, and they threatened that they would switch the vote on me. And
But do you think that Julie would believe that? Because I don't think Julie would believe that either. I think that this whole I think having the conversation between Julie and Drew is just like
it's a losing scenario.
They have to do it. It's like going to Thanksgiving dinner and just having a conversation with someone that you like are related to. So you have to talk to them, but you like literally are like, what are we going to talk about? We have nothing in common right now. I don't agree with anything that you say. So I feel like it's just more of a doing it just to kind of do it. And I think that there's nothing really that could have won that relationship back, but it's just kind of like, I'm going to say this thing and it'll be said and then we'll move on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And those are the interactions that make me cringe and make my skin crawl, that we have to be like, oh, we're getting the band back together. Like, let's fill this with every kind of cliche I could possibly come up with. Like, it's not for me. And I understand that it has to be done and it's kind of cringe, but
just in defense of Drew. Just in defense of Drew.
I'm
Someone's
sorry.
gotta do it.
I can't do it. Maybe you
I'll
can.
do it. It's okay.
And Julie has this great confessional, feigning sadness, and she's like, "Whatever happened to Reba Strong? I'll tell you what happened. Drew happened." And honestly, I'm not surprised. If someone asked me who of the Reba Four was going to, be a weasel, Drew's been given weasel energy for a long time, in my opinion. And there are some weasels I like. I love an otter, for example. Otters are wonderful, but I do not think Drew is that kind of weasel. I think he is a squirmy weasel who would do what he wanted to do in his best interest above his alliance's interest.
That's so funny. Well, I will say, I would argue that Austin also does that. Austin did what's best for him and not what's best for the alliance.
Well, he's also doing what's best for the girl he's fawning over. So I think he's got different issues.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a reward challenge on the horizon, and we will be right back, and we'll get into that reward challenge very briefly.
Hi, Survivor Now podcast listeners. I am Katie from KT Designs, better known as Katie Tedesco Art, on both Instagram and Etsy. I have been designing and selling Survivor products for over 7 years at my Etsy shop, including replicas like hidden immunity idols and Survivor trading cards with all of the players' stats on the back. I am so grateful for Survivor Now for giving me this shout out and helping me reach even more superfans. I love listening to their podcast. So if you are looking for some really unique reality TV products for yourself or to give a superfan in your life, come check out my Etsy shop at www.etsy.com/shop/KatieTedescoArt.com.
And we are back. And honestly, I cannot endorse Katie Tedesco Art anymore. Quite frankly, I've been fawning over all of her stuff, and I caved and I got myself some Survivor trading cards made by Katie Tedesco herself. So if you want to relive the magic of your favorite seasons and get a playing card of someone like, I don't know, Cirie Fields with all of her stats on the back, baller. I feel like I'm back watching this season all over again. I don't know, Shane Powers. You want to pretend like you are Shane Powers and you're,
Shane Powers card. That's incredible.
I know, absolutely incredible. All his stats on the back. Unfortunately, no information about his BlackBerry, but maybe that's because it's trademark. But that's okay. I'll scribble that in with pencil. Incredible information. Stephanie LaGrossa. We got some of my favorites. Who I aspire to be, Rafe Judkins.
Oh my gosh.
So many amazing cards. Genuinely, I'm obsessed with them. If you don't have Katie Tedesco trading cards, then get off of my playground, because I don't know if we can be friends anymore. Just kidding.
I was thinking that I want to do a pack from her. I don't know if she does it, but I thought it'd be really great if I got a first boot pack, a bunch of first boots. I don't think she does them though, but wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be incredible if you could get a Francesca card. I would love that.
It would be so good. It'd be so good. Oh my God.
So we get to this reward challenge and the winner gets a picnic, and Jeff says, but you don't have to eat it here at camp. And I'm like, oh my God, if he's going to say that we have to go back to the sanctuary one more time, I am going to drop kick this man in Minecraft, is what the children say, right? I'm gonna do something in Minecraft. That's
I
what they
don't know.
say. That's what the kids say when they want to say something mean, but they don't want it to be considered like a threat. They say, they said, I'm gonna do this in Minecraft. So Jeff, I'm coming for you in Minecraft. That's okay. I'm sure my fist would bounce off of the Botox on his face. So they get to eat their food from the picnic on a sand spit in the middle of the ocean and get to take a helicopter, which is definitely reminiscent of old school Survivor. So big props to them. And okay, sorry, this challenge looked cool for a second, and then I started watching and I was not impressed. Austin wins and he picks D. Come on, man. Like, come on. Like, I know that you're obsessed with this girl, but like, I don't know if I endorse that choice. And then he picks Katurah. If you were Austin in this situation, who would you pick and why?
I would definitely want to make sure that Dee and Julie are separated. So that is my number one. I would probably say that I would want Dee and Julie to be separated. So that means one of them is coming with me. And if I'm Austin, I want Julie to not be at camp. If I'm actively playing against Julie, you know where usually idols are hidden? Camp. So I would probably say I would take Julie with me so that she cannot have a chance to look for an idol. So that would, in theory, then leave D behind. So that was not going to happen. But that, I think, is the correct move. And then I think probably a good thing to also take Katurah, because I think if you take Drew, then D is going to feel extra like bad, kind of how Drew felt. And so I think that that's not, you don't want to do that to your alliance. And so if you leave the majority of your own alliance back, I think it's just a little bit better. And I would say, honestly, either Jake or Katurah. I don't think for Austin's game, it really mattered. Maybe Jake, because, you know, it's, I don't know, but I just feel like you need to separate Julie and D. And I just don't, I don't feel like I would want to leave Julie where the idols are. So that's what I would do. Who would you have taken?
I could not agree more. I think those are the perfect choices. And to follow up those perfect choices, we do have a somber moment for a second. We get can someone bring in the world's smallest violin, please? We do get a moment where Drew is sad that he wasn't picked. And no one has ever picked him for a reward. And honestly, that's so hard.
Your face. Oh my gosh. That's hysterical. I felt bad. I haven't been picked for things before. I get it.
I know we've all been there. I've totally been there. But at the same time, you're so close to possibly winning this game. There are 6 people in this game. You have to make it 3 more people to get eliminated, and then you can plead your case to why you win. Personally, I would be frothing at the mouth to get to the final 3. I would not be frothing for a picnic and a helicopter. That's cool. Don't get me wrong. That's badass to be on a helicopter. But you need to laser focus what you want. And honestly, Drew's been really good at that for a really long time. And maybe it's just him getting tired. And I totally understand where he's coming from there. But I'm sorry, Drew. I just don't feel that bad.
Okay, again, me coming in defense of Drew.
Do it.
What I will say is I kind of like the fact that the person who has been shown as the game bot of the season, the person who was very good at separating emotion from, you know, alliances and all of this stuff. I like the fact that we're seeing this person who, you know, like I said, was in theory able to separate, get upset about something, because I think it shows a little bit more about what the reality of Survivor is, where it's you're not going to be able to play Survivor 24/7. Like, no one can do that. It's very, very difficult to do that. There are going to be some moments where you're, you know, real. No one can play a perfect game. You can play a pretty damn close to perfect game, but no one's going to be able to play a 100% perfect game. And so the fact that we saw a little bit of that emotion, I kind of, you know, liked for Drew and his character. I thought it was a little bit more interesting and gave, you know, Drew a little bit more, you know, of a 3D picture of who he is. And I understood, because also the thing is like in Drew's head, how did Julie find out about the idol, right? How did that happen? He was worried that Austin was going to tell D anyway. So maybe in his head he's like, okay, I'm actually not Austin's number 1. I felt like I'm Austin's number 1, but maybe I'm not actually his number 1, because not only did he go and tell D when we told him not to, But maybe he doesn't know, but like maybe, but also he's not choosing me for things and he's choosing D instead. So he's seeing like maybe my number one isn't actually like I'm not their number one. So I feel like, I don't know, I kind of liked that little human moment from him. He's not a
That's
robot,
valid.
you know?
You're right. That is a very valid point, and I do think that Drew is human, and things are probably getting to him at this point in the game. Which, unfortunately, he'll have to put that aside because he is the babysitter tonight. So, make sure that you do as he says, and your parents will be back after they ride a helicopter.
They
And
left $20 for pizza, aka rice. So
which Drew will have to be scraping off the side of the pot, but begrudgingly, but he will complain about it, but he will do it. And then we see the absolutely exhilarating badass scene of Austin, D, and Katurah in the helicopter. They fly by the beach, and Jake and Julie wave while Drew just stands there and complains that life is unfair. And Jake's like, okay, but we're on Survivor. And Drew doubles down by mentioning the fact that he has to scrape the dirty pot for an hour each day. And Jake is like, okay, but we're on Survivor.
Survivor.
And
Jake is the eternal optimist. I love it.
And I just appreciate the dichotomy between them in that scene. And even though we've all been both of those people before, right? We've had the person be the Eeyore in our lives, and sometimes we have been the Eeyore. And it was very relatable, and I appreciated that. And then we get something even more relatable where Dee has a confessional where she says, I won't believe a man is telling me the truth until he backs it up with actions. And honestly, I don't know if I ever want a tattoo, but if I ever get one, that's what I'm getting. That right there.
That's so funny. Or I would say that, or what Kelly said was, I've never been afraid of big dudes or whatever.
That's
Absolutely.
true.
Absolutely.
Kelly is a legend in her own right. Absolutely. And Dee then gets flustered in confessional when talking about Austin, which is very cute. And we get a great moment, which I love, when we hear from the producers and people working on the show where Dee's like, wait, what was the question? And the producer's like, what's the deal with you and Austin? And you're acting a little bit smitten. And we see her sort of get red, and it's adorable. And I know that we haven't gotten a lot of this showmance as the seasons progress, but I'm so glad that we have, because it has been so fun, honestly. And although, like, I look back at seasons like All Stars and I'm like, ugh, the romper of it all. Like, at the time, that was so compelling to watch that happen in, for us, real time, and then to see them actually stay together and be in a relationship. I mean, that's how I felt last season when it came to the Franny romance. Like, come on. That does melt my heart.
They're amazing. Franny and Matt, icons. I love them. I just like, I think that's the problem with the Austin and Dee showmance.
Wait. Tegworth. Are they still together?
Yeah. They live together in San Francisco. She moved to San Francisco.
What?
Yeah. So unless something has changed in the last like couple of weeks, but yeah, she moved from Boston to San Francisco.
Okay, I hate rom-coms. I'm not really invested in other people's love lives. Anyone who is a good friend of mine knows that I really don't really care. Like, when people are like, oh my God, like, I'm like one of those like parents where like, oh my God, I'm dating someone, and I'm the parent who will be like, don't tell me unless it gets serious. Like, I don't want to know unless like things progress, and like unless I see like a ring on your finger, like I don't want to know. But I am that friend in many ways. But I don't know why, but something about the Franny in that relationship just makes me so happy. So I'm very happy to hear that update. Thank you for that.
Oh, of course. I'm obsessed with them. They're amazing. They're iconic. And I just love them so much. But I'm happy that we have I like the showmances. And you know, we were watching on the Survivor Live channel, Millennials versus Gen X. That showmance I could have done without.
Figtails.
Yeah, I could have done without.
Please. Never mind. If any of our listeners are familiar with the show or the musical and the movie Heathers, they have a very nice quote about doing something with a chainsaw. And if you know, you know, and that's how I feel about Figtails. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Speaking of Heathers, apparently that's the show that Jake was talking about.
When?
When he was saying that he was on stage in his underwear or whatever.
Oh my
Apparently-
God. Wait. Was he part of one of the
No.
people who was murdered that they talked about was like gay gay, but not really in Heathers. And the guy was like, I love my dead gay son. Is that what he's talking about?
Maybe. I'm not sure. I didn't see where he said that. I just am relaying what I saw on some of my comments. And so apparently, yeah.
That's iconic.
Yeah. Because Jake is an icon.
Jake is an icon. Honestly, I'm hoping that he didn't actually. I hope that he played Veronica. Actually, I hope he played one of the Heathers, and I hope that there's footage out there of Jake O'Kane singing Candy Store from Heathers.
Oh my
That
God,
is what I want
incredible.
more than anything else on this planet.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. I would freaking love that. Oh my
So
gosh.
we do see even more quality Jake on our screens because he does find a clue and then an actual idol in the bamboo of a raft, and he shoves it into his underwear and he calls it his crotch idol, which I think may be my favorite iteration of any idol before.
Well, first off, I know we talked about it a little bit earlier. I loved where this idol was hidden. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was a really interesting way. My favorite idols on Survivor are in Survivor history are the hidden immunity idols from China. I think it's amazing. I think they should always do something like that where it's incorporated in the environment that you're using every single day. That's why I hate the little dumb beads because like they're just so dumb and little and beads, and I don't like them. And I like these like intricate, a little bit of a different, I like these little different idols. So I love that they used the raft in that kind of way to incorporate the idol, and I loved it. And do more of that production, please.
Yeah, seriously. And my question for you, Tegwith, I really want you to tell me the honest to goodness truth here, because we hear Jake say, I have this idol, and I think with this idol, I might be able to get jury votes and respect at the end. And I'm going to be so honest, personally, and I want you to tell me if you feel the same way. I do not think that even if Jake pulls off a very impressive maneuver with an idol, that he can win. I do not think at this point that Jake can win the game. Do you agree?
Okay, I think it depends on who's sitting next to and the bitterness of the jury. I think that if he has a successful idol play, and maybe wins an immunity. Maybe the successful idol play is for somebody else. You know what I mean? Like he saves somebody else with the idol, kind of a, like a San Juan del Sur-esque play. And he sits next to maybe Austin and maybe, I don't know, maybe Julie. Not that she didn't play a great game, but like Austin or Julie or maybe Katurah. I don't know. I feel like he has an argument because I feel like he can differentiate himself. And I feel like I think Drew might be a bitter juror. Because I think that he really was very upset when he left. And I think that, I don't think he would vote for Austin. And I think if somebody came and had a good enough, even though Austin didn't, vote for him, because Julie's in the game because of what Austin did. I don't know. I think there's a world in which Drew doesn't vote for Austin. And then I think, maybe Bruce, maybe if Katurah is in the final, I don't think that Bruce is going to be voting for Katurah specifically. So I feel like there's a way in which the votes could be split to where he wins. I think that there's a small chance, though, just because of the edit that he's getting. He's not getting like, I'm doing things, this is what I'm doing kind of edit. I think they want to show their player, the winner, like to have some kind of agency in the game, even when they don't have that much agency. So I just don't see it happening, but I see like a possibility, and I would love a Jake win. Let me just say it out. I would freaking love a Jake win. That would be amazing. Nothing. Oh my gosh. I would be so happy. And the fact that I'm saying this and he was the person that I thought was going to be the first boot is bonkers to me, but
Full
I would
circle.
love a Jake win. Full circle. But do you think that Jake has a chance?
I think
maybe like a 10% chance.
I think lower than that, personally.
Really?
I do think that if Jake plays an idol correctly for somebody else and says, did you vote for who I told you to vote for? I don't know why he's sounding like the woman from SpongeBob who's selling chocolates or who's receiving chocolates in the wheelchair. Tegwith, do you know what I'm talking about?
I've never seen SpongeBob.
Okay, so there's a scene. I'm
Sorry.
gonna do this for all of our SpongeBob viewers in the audience. There's a scene where SpongeBob and Patrick are going door to door selling chocolate.
Okay.
And there's this woman who is not fond of chocolate.
I get that.
And she's in a wheelchair, and this is what she says. What are they selling? Chocolates. I remember when they first invented chocolate. Sweet, sweet chocolate. I always hated it.
Oh my god, that's first of all, I don't know who you're impersonating, but it sounded like it was good.
Thank you. And I don't know why my Jake impersonation always slips into the woman in the wheelchair from SpongeBob who eats chocolate, but it always does. Jake, if you're out there, tell me, are you flattered by this? Are you upset by this? I need to know, because Connecticut and Boston are kind of close, so we can make this happen, and I could do the impression with you in person. Like, we can arrange this.
So
Let me know.
funny. That's so funny. No, but here I will say, I think Jake knows his theatrics. I think he understands how to make a crowd feel, or an audience or a jury feel a certain way. Like he's a theater nerd. He's a theater kid. We know how to do that, and we've seen this when he was like my idol. I mean, the idol, a idol. You know what I mean? Like he knows that tribal council is theater, which I've said a billion times. And I do think that if he were to actually successfully play the idol, and specifically for somebody else, I think he would make it a big show of it. He would ham it up. He would ham for ham. That's a Hamilton reference. So okay. But you know what I mean? Like I think that he would actually do that. And then I also think he would have a very interesting final tribal. I think that he has a way to look at what's happened and make it so that flip the things so that it's actually in his benefit. And I that's why I think there's like a very small chance, depending on who he's sitting next to. I don't think if he sits next to D, he wins. I think that that's the main thing. D cannot be in the final three. I truly believe that D would win it all, no matter who she's sitting next to.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's kind of why I just think that he's theatrical and kind of knows how an audience ticks and how they think and how to capture them. And I'm not saying the other people don't, but we've literally seen it happen where there's no way that was a mistake, you know, when he was like, my idol. I mean, an idol. Like that was not a mistake, and it was seamless.
It was seamless. Jake is the greatest showman of this season.
Yes.
And I do think that we are even now, because you haven't seen SpongeBob and I have not seen Hamilton. So I guess we'll call it even.
You haven't seen the movie? I haven't seen the musical, but I've seen the musical movie.
Nope.
It's fine.
Okay. All right.
They shot it like a movie. I don't like when they shoot pro shots like a movie. They need to shoot it like a show so that we can see the whole thing. Because what they do is they focus in on people who are not actually singing or whatever, and they're telling the story through cinema rather than telling the story through the stage and the acting. And I don't like that. Sorry to go on a little tangent, guys.
No, it's okay, because it makes me feel better about not having seen it, because everybody in undergrad bullied me for not watching it. And honestly, I stand by it.
You know what? I think that, you know, if you want to go see a show, wait to see it on Broadway. Or not Broadway, but like in your
stage production. Right. Okay, that's fair. So we get to this immunity challenge, which Jeff Probst calls brand new, which is completely false.
Okay.
Because it was from Survivor Blood versus Water. So
no, it was a totem. It wasn't a ball, wasn't it?
I know, but come on.
The totem doesn't roll.
Oh gosh. I mean, like, I guess, but come on. That's like saying, all right, we're going to change the challenge where you're eating different kinds of food. And instead of that, we're going to have you just eat like the leaves off the ground.
No, it's like changing it to like a drink.
That's true. Instead of eating something, you're going to be drinking something, which they have done before. But I mean,
it's not blood. So
that's true. They should have done that on Blood versus Water. Why didn't they make them drink blood on Blood versus Water? That should have been the first challenge. First challenge, Blood versus Water. Drink the shoot the cow like they did in Africa. Drink the blood. Why did they not do that? Missed opportunity.
Oh God.
I'm not saying I would have liked it, but I think it just would have made sense for the theme. And then they get some water after.
I just had the worst bloody nose last night that lasted like half of a movie, and so the thought of drinking blood like is making my stomach like, because I essentially was drinking my own blood last night.
That is vile.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, TMI.
So this immunity challenge, which has never been done before, comes down between Dee and Austin, and Dee wins. And then right after this challenge, we see Jake pitching Drew as an option to Julie, which was already established earlier in the episode where Julie and Dee were considering voting for Drew. And so that works. And they get Katurah to be down for it too. And Jake's whole mindset is like, I'm okay if this comes down to a tie because I think that I can convince Dee or Austin to switch their votes to Drew after the first vote.
Mhm.
I personally, I understand that there aren't very many options at this point, right? Like your hands are kind of tied. You can't do that much. There are only so many permutations and combinations of votes. However, I don't think that banking, and maybe this is true if you're in the minority and you're not in a good position, but banking on a tie vote to get you through, that's such shaky ground.
Yeah.
Like, I almost understand Katurah's desire to go tell Dee about this plan because she was desperate, perhaps, I'm assuming, to get the numbers. Because I would rather, I don't know. That's the question. This is the question of the hour. If you're watching this 10 years from now and you want to comment, do it. But this is the question of the hour. Do you go for a tie and hope that you can swing someone in the moment? Or do you approach someone who you don't know if you really have for a fourth and try and gain the majority? What do you think, Tegwith?
I honestly kind of love this idea from Jake. I get that it's shaky, but the thing is Jake is now playing for $1 million. He's not playing to get to the next day. And he knows that he hasn't played the best game so far. You know?
What are you talking about? This has been his season. He's done everything right.
He has done everything right. True. But he knows that he hasn't been like, the person who has been making the big moves. And he, again, going back to this, he again knows that tribal council is theater. And so if in that moment he was able to show Austin or Dee, was it Austin? Yeah, it was Austin and Dee, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were not in on this plan and they're on the outs and they actually are the ones that are waffling right now. They're the ones that aren't, so set and they don't really care about their allies and they're actually going to burn their ally right here. It's so chaotic and amazing and the jury's watching the whole thing. If you go and tell somebody that you don't know, maybe that they'll join, maybe that they won't, the jury doesn't know that happened. The jury doesn't see that happened. And then also, if they might not join you, then they could flip it on you and it maybe wasn't on you. So I kind of thought it was a very interesting thing to propose. I don't think that it was going to work, but I think that it was a very interesting thought for Jake to propose because I do think that he's in the right mindset of it needs to be big moves. And by big moves, it doesn't always mean getting out a big player. It means showing that the other players are weaker than I am.
True.
And I think it would have been incredible if that had worked. And I think the right thing to do for Katurah's game was probably what she did. But the right thing for Jake to do, I think, was that idea. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. I don't know if the people who are watching have any other thoughts or any different, thoughts on that. But I just think, somebody said reality TV drama on the TikToks live says, I love that Jake is taking risks, though. I totally agree.
I agree. I think it's almost like Sammy from Survivor 43, where maybe he didn't play the most perfect game and things were chaotic at times, but he swung big. And I respect that. I really do. And I think that Jake is playing balls to the wall, and I very much respect that. You want to know what I don't respect, Tegwith? What I truly, in my heart of hearts, do not have any respect for?
True.
How'd you know?
Just a guess.
Specifically, it's when he's saying in confessional, like, we're going to be one of the greats, like JT and Steven, like Gervais and Tyson. I'm sorry. If you are a Survivor fan and you cannot correctly pronounce one of the OG Survivor Borneo cast members' names, you have besmirched the good name of Survivor fans everywhere. I will never, ever forget this, and probably never forgive you.
I literally, in that moment, I went, who is he talking about? Like, I didn't even clock that he was talking about Jervis. I went, what? Who? And then Ryan next to me went, Jervis? And I went, whoa, what? did he just say? And then it was in that moment, and I talked about this on my TikTok that I did earlier because a lot of tweets were said about that. And I went, this is when I know that, people don't really live the individual lives they think that they live. Because in my head, I went, I bet you, like, no one probably else caught that, Not, I mean, obviously, Survivor superfans caught it, but I was like thinking about it big. And then I saw everyone tweeting about it. I go, oh, you're not as original as you think you are, Tegwith. Be more humble like Drew.
This was the final straw for me. Drew, you have done a lot of things in this game that have made me have a hard time to warm up to you, but this was the final straw because the last thing that Drew and I had together in this parasocial relationship that he doesn't know that we have is that we were both Survivor super fans.
Mm-hmm.
And when he said that, there was nothing left. There was nothing left. Drew, what do we have? Do we have Pokemon at least? Do we have Pokemon? Do we still got that? What are you gonna do? Call Pikachu Pikachu? Like, what are we gonna do? Please.
I'm done.
The fabric of my life is just falling apart as we speak. And the last thing that we see before we go to Tribal is Dee feeling really conflicted and bad about not telling Austin about voting for Drew. And frankly, I think this is what sets her apart from a good player to a great player because of the fact that she is able to put her emotions aside and be like, oh my God, I have to do what's best for me. And we don't know that as we go into this commercial break before Tribal, but we do know ultimately that she does make the right decision. And we will get into all of these shenanigans right after this break. And because I know all of you love the listener questions so much, we have a few more, believe it or not, coming your way right after this break before we get to Tribal. So we will see you very, very soon.
What's up, guys? I'm Todd Herzog, the winner of Survivor China, and I want to welcome you to Todd's Pop Shop. Here, me and my husband Jess, we custom make Funko Pops. We'll make literally anybody or anything you could imagine. But being that we're here listening to the Survivor Now podcast, I'm assuming you're all Survivor fans. So take a look at these. Some custom Funkos of your favorite Survivor winners, Sandra and Yul. Or how about Big Brother fans? Cirie Goddess herself playing the game of Big Brother. You can also get her in Survivor form. Or maybe yourself with your favorite buff and a torch, playing the game. But even better, get yourself with your favorite player like Nora here with Ozzy. And since you're listening to the Survivor Now podcast, if you mention this ad, you will get $10 off your first order and free shipping. All season long, Survivor 45 should be a good one. Mention this ad, $10 off and free shipping. I'll be watching too, still a diehard fan to this day. Hit me up on Instagram, Todd's Pop Shop, or toddspopshop@gmail.com, or on Facebook, and I will see you soon.
And we are back. And something I never noticed during that Todd's Pop Shop ad is that Todd says Cirie Goddess herself. She is a goddess.
She is a goddess.
Genuinely, for Drag Race fans out there, we got the song from Sasha Colby in season 15 of Drag Race, Goddess. Mm-hmm. I do think there needs to be a version of that song where we also pay homage to Cirie herself because she is a goddess. And honestly, there are times where Cirie is also in Connecticut, just like me, and
that means you know her.
We're basically best friends, and there is magic in the air when I feel that, and like I know, like deep inside me, I know, 100%. And I also know that before we get to Tribal, well, you know, delayed gratification, Tegwith, like when you put something off so you can enjoy it more when it finally comes.
No, I don't know that, but continue.
Well, I'm trying it out for the first time, and I've decided that I'm going to put off the moment that I played on repeat about 37 times of Drew's torch being snuffed, and we're going to put that on hold for just a few seconds, and we're going to answer some questions from TikTok because I love when we get listener questions. So fire away, Tegwith.
We've got a couple. So we do have a question. I think this was from Obi. Obi asked, what do we think that Jake can do to win? I know we talked a little bit about, if Jake wins, but what exactly do you think that Jake could, in theory, still do that could beef up his resume so much to secure the W?
Yeah. So my first idea is that Jake would have to simultaneously get everyone else medevaced out of the game, so that there is no other choice but to crown him.
Do you think that'll
That's what I
happen?
think. Honestly, he's a lawyer, so maybe if he was taken to court and like they really went at him,
Yeah.
he would be able to defend himself.
Yeah.
But that's not true. Two of the other people are lawyers, so I feel like that would be kind of
Well,
hard
they won't
too.
be there because they'll be medevac.
That's true. They'll be in the hospital. So, do we have? Wait, hold on. I have another sub question. Have we ever had like 50% of a final try be made up of lawyers before? Is this
Not
a
that I'm aware
first?
of.
That's
It seems like a first.
kind of iconic. That's
Yeah.
actually iconic.
Yeah.
Survivor lawyers versus doctors versus no collar versus hustlers versus villains
Versus blood.
versus Heathers.
Yeah. Yep. That's the next season, guys.
I'm sorry, Obi, I can't answer your question seriously because I just don't think it's really possible. But
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a tough look. I think that so I think I said he has to, have a really good final tribal council speech. That's number one. Number two, he has to play his idol correctly. It has to happen. He can't not play it. He has to play it correctly, and he has to make a big deal about it. And number three, I think he has to win an immunity. And number four, I think he has to vote D out. I don't think he has to go and like D loses to fire. I think he has to have a plan to vote D out. And if he's the one that was like, you see D over there? I literally did that. That's literally me. She would have won this whole thing. I think those are the steps. And I think that he has to like dominate the finale. I don't think it's going to happen, but
you're like, and then he has to grow a third arm. So for the final challenge, he can like lift up whatever it is. And also 15 idols have to rain from the sky simultaneously.
Also, he needs to get his PhD in astrophysics before the end of the season. He needs to also go on to reindeer games and win.
He also has to date Julie Berry to garner the respect of Jeff Probst.
So, no, I think there's a 10% chance that Jake wins. 10%. Speaking of this,
so high.
We had another question from Nick. Nick wants to know what our rankings are, what we think the finale is going to look like. Is it going, and this is going to be something that we talk about after Tribal if you want, but they're asking 5, who's going to be 5th place, 4th place, and then 3rd, 2nd, and 1st.
For me, it'd be easier to go from top down.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
I think D is going to win.
Okay.
I think Julie is also going to be in the final 3.
Okay.
I think Austin will be cut before that. I don't know when. And so I think D, Julie, and I'm going to say Katurah or Jake, but I'm going to lean towards Katurah because I think they're going to be the women versus the men. And I think that they're going to keep it, final 3 as those 3. And then I think Jake is going to be taken out at 4.
Okay.
And I think that next week Jake is going to play his idol and Austin's going to be out of there.
Okay. I think that's very interesting. I kind of agree with that. I think that, but here's the difference. I think that Jake and Katurah are going to go to fire together because they showed that clip of Jake and Katurah talking about Final 4 fire and how Katurah was like, why can't we just vote somebody out at 4? Which it makes me think that Katurah actually loses fire. Because she said she was critiquing the game. And I feel like we don't really see people critique the game that often. And I think the thing that she is going to go out, the reason why she's going to go out is because it wasn't a vote at Final 4. It was actually Final Fire because she lost fire.
That's a really good point. And I also think that the fact that Bruce will be staring at her as she does it will probably not be the added little push that she needs. I think that might throw her off. I think what's going to happen is that she will be doing the fire making against Jake, and then in the background Bruce will be doing the robot, and then she's going to just get so mad and be like, "No, stop!" And then Jake's going to win.
That's really funny. Yeah, I think either Austin or Julie goes out next. I think Austin and Julie are 5. I think Katurah is 4. I think Jake is a 0 vote finalist. And I think either Austin or Julie is second. Part of me feels like Austin's going to final 3 because they did the reference to Rob and Amber. And so I feel like Austin loses to D because spoiler alert, Rob lost to Amber in All Stars. So
but we can never have like a final group of contestants or finalists that are all in a relationship together unless they're a polyamorous relationship. And I don't know,
true.
but I don't see that happening on Survivor. And we should bring back final 2s. They should make it a final 2 just this season so it can be D and Austin so they can recreate Romber and that D can win. And then we can televise their wedding on TV just like they did back in 2004. I'm into it. I'm into it.
We had another question going through when we were going through all of that, which I don't have an answer to because I try not to be spoiled that much about the casts. But somebody was asking how you felt about the 46 cast. Who asked that? I don't remember who asked that.
I do not know who's cast on Survivor 46.
I don't know. I haven't. Did I say 44?
No, I thought you said 46.
I meant 46. That's whatever I meant. 46, whatever I said. But yeah, definitely. I don't know. I know that there are who like I've met a couple people who are on season 46, but I don't know the overall like photo of all of them really.
I only know of one person who is cast on Survivor 46. And I'm going to be really honest. I don't know. I think my only hope for this Christmas season is that in the future, Survivor casting is willing to cast people from different walks of life, because I think that's one of the most beautiful things that Survivor offered. Interactions between people who would not normally interact. And I fear that the way that Survivor is heading based on the current trajectory is that we're going to get a lot of people who, though diverse in some aspects, we get a lot of people who come from similar backgrounds. We got people who are, I don't know how to describe it, but I want to see another Twyla Tanner on my screen is basically what I'm saying. And I think that we don't necessarily see diversity within jobs as much. We don't see diversity in terms of exposure to the show. I am a fan of the show. However, I don't see anything wrong with people being on the show who don't have a lot of exposure. Just explain to them the mechanics of the game and let them do their thing. And you shouldn't have to be a super fan to be on the show, in my opinion.
I agree.
That's all I want.
And somebody literally just asked, how do you feel about them? A hot take. I think they should stop casting super fans. Thoughts. And I don't think it's a hot take at all. I literally believe one of my first videos on TikTok that got over 1,000 views, and this is not even a lie, was me talking about that they should stop casting super fans. And I said, I know this is hypocritical because I'm applying and I'm a super fan, but it's just, sometimes I want somebody to be on my screen who's there just because they want to be on TV. Because what happens is, it's not like good for the integrity of the game, but it's very interesting television. Let me just say, like, not every person who goes on Big Brother wants to win Big Brother. They want to go on Big Brother because they want to be famous, but that means they start drama. Not really much this season, but you know what I mean? Like things like that happen, and that's fun television. And I know that Survivor isn't there for the drama, and I get it, but it's sometimes fun. Don't lie. It's sometimes fun to have.
It's drama. A lot of fun. I completely agree.
People don't say. People are like, no, I'm there just for the game, and I'm like, yeah, okay, sure.
Which I think this
is like it when Jatia dumped all the rice out.
Okay. Right, exactly. I think this is a beautiful segue, and if we do have some listener questions at the end, we can get to those then. But I do want to segue into tribal a little bit, because something that really stuck out to me, like you said, was you said some people are here for the money. Drew was not here for the experience. He says he did not really grow from this experience, and that was something that sort of shocked me in his final words, because I personally saw a transformation in him. I respected him a lot more than I did originally. But let me slow down a little second. So we do see Drew saying, if I get past this vote, I see how I'm getting to the end. And we hear Julie saying, you got to take it day by day. And personally, even if you don't believe in that philosophy of taking it day by day, you got to say it. You got to say it. And something that always sticks out to me about preseason press is when Sydney Siegel said, people always get hung up in the long game, but you got to be able to see it day by day. And I agree with that strategy overall. If it doesn't matter if you want to make it to day 26 and you have a plan to get to day 26, or you know what you want to do on day 26, because if you don't get there, if you don't get to day 3, day 6, day 9, it doesn't matter. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. ASMR. It doesn't matter.
No, yeah, exactly. And, you know, I think that, you know, when Drew, I take these immediately been voted out of Survivors, like confessional things with a grain of salt. Because, you know, interview me right after I'm voted out of Survivor. I'm going to be a hot mess. I'm not going to want to talk to anybody. I'm going to want to probably break something, but also never talk to anybody again, but also cry, but also scream. You know what I mean? But also laugh and smile and pretend that it was all fun. And
Wait, hold on. I have to ask you then. What is your favorite post voted out interview from
Thanks,
Survivor? Jeff Kent.
Thanks, Obama. Yeah. Easiest
That
question.
That
answer
is genius. I think, honestly, as much as I love Jeff Kent, my favorite is Helen Glover, Survivor Thailand, where she says, the 3 of you who are left, break a leg. And I mean it. And then at the end, she goes, done.
This actually is an interesting segue to a question that I had, because last night Ryan and I were on YouTube, as we usually are, and we were watching the most brutal Final Tribal Council questions. My favorite pastime. Why don't they? I think they should bring that back. What do you think about that?
Oh my God, yes. I think that the current Socratic seminar, we're just going to each take our turn and we're just going to talk and it's going to be... No, doesn't work. Does not work, because certain voices are amplified and certain voices are not heard at all. There have been times in past seasons since this has been enacted where we haven't even heard from certain jurors, or so we've seen. I think that's doing a great disservice to the show. And let's be honest, what is the most memorable, the most entertaining jury question of all time? Snakes and rats. What changed reality TV? Snakes and rats. Sue Hawk delivered the most memorable moment of Survivor Borneo and maybe of reality TV at that time. And I think by not letting people get their chance to get up on their soapbox, make it about themselves, feed their ego, and like go in for the kill if they want to, we're taking away the fact that people get to be gratified and miss out on some really good reality TV moments. So I say bring back the individual jury questions.
Yeah. And
Amen.
if you guys want to have a fun, like 30 minutes of your life, sit down and watch compilations of that on YouTube, because they're incredible. Like I like the one from Russell Hance's first season, where what was his name? He was talking, he was like, you're rude, you suck, and even though people are going to tell you that your game was bad, Natalie, and it was bad, but at least you're the only person, blah blah blah. I forget who said that, but it's just like that moment I was like, I forgot that happened. I have no names for anybody. Oh, somebody said Eric. There we go.
Yeah,
I have no
it's
names.
Eric Cardona.
And I just was like, I forgot that happened. My jaw dropped, and I was like, I can't believe what I'm watching right now. It's so good. I'm trying to memorize for a TikTok the Missy. Some people, you've cast yourself as the mother of the tribe, but fans of classic literary novels or whatever will tell you that you're actually this evil stepmother. I'm trying to memorize that for a TikTok. I'm not
Reed. Oh my goodness. I have some qualms with I have some. Yeah, he did read. Reed read.
I couldn't say read because that sounded silly, but read read.
I do have some qualms with Survivor San Juan del Sur, and I am going to rewatch it soon because it's not my favorite season, if I'm being completely honest. Because I think that there are some duds on the cast. However, that moment, iconic. You have to appreciate it. I don't understand why they would not want to make those moments. I think maybe it's because they want to make Survivor a nice family show where people are always happy and you are not going to get your feelings hurt. But in a game for $1 million, inevitably feelings are going to get hurt. So let's just call a spade, lean into it, and call it a day. All right, Tegwith, any other questions?
From the TikTok. Oh, yes. There were a couple. Sorry, I was so focused on thinking about past things. Okay, sorry, guys. Also, for those of you who are listening to the podcast, not watching, I rolled my eyes about 9 times, and he was when David was talking about like the happiness that Survivor is now, which is nice, but it's not great. Okay, Johnny asks, how do you think Julie can win this season? Do you think Julie
So
can
what I
win? First of all,
Yeah, so what I think is gonna have to happen is that, everyone else is gonna have to be medevac. No, I'm just kidding. So I think that Julie will have to take out D. That's it. I think D is the equivalent of Jesse on Survivor 43, where it's
right?
like, "Oh my goodness, this person is playing at the upper echelon, levels above everybody else, and unless you take them out, you're probably not gonna be able to win." What do you think?
I totally agree. I think that D would have to take. I mean, Julie would have to take D out, and then just play to like people's at the final tribal council. Play like I was the one. I almost won a bunch of things, but I didn't win them, but I did that on purpose. And I idled Emily out, who was going to win the whole thing. Use that and build it up. But then I was also like, I was also fighting against the mom stereotype that you all put me in. I leaned into it, but I also had to play it a little bit safer than you guys could, because you guys were calling me mom, and you don't want to get blindsided by your mom. So that's why I played the way I did. I feel like if you use like that kind of um
That's a very compelling
verbiage,
reasoning.
you know what I mean? Be like, if I come here and I've burned every single one of you and I do all of this stuff, so it might not look that I've done a lot, but I had to fight against this niche that you've put me in, this niche that you've put me in. And I had to do it to my best ability. I didn't want to be the mom, but you told me that I was. So this is where I am. And also this whole time I was a lawyer, suckers.
That's
So
true. That is gonna be a big, bombshell, but I agree.
so
I think we talked about this in previous episodes of Survivor Social, but I wanna bring it up again about the fact that motherly figures are fighting an uphill battle on
yeah,
Survivor.
yeah,
Like, they are seen as, "Oh, we don't have to worry about them. They're just gonna be nice, and they're gonna lay down their games for us," and I hope that Julie makes it to Final Tribal
yeah,
and she gets some votes. I don't necessarily think she'll win against Dee, but I just want her to be respected because I feel like as much as people love Mama J, I don't think a lot of people are willing to vote for that kind of archetype. And I think that says something about people in general
mhm,
and Survivor fans, but people in general especially, and that kind of upsets me. I'm not gonna
yeah.
lie.
Yeah, which is always so funny to me, because in every so many times, oh my god, mama whomever is going to be a jury threat. Mama whomever is going to be a jury threat. When has a mama ever been a jury threat?
Maybe Tina Wesson in
But was she
Survivor
called
Australian
Mama
Outback?
Tina?
But yeah,
Was she called,
no.
was she? I can't remember. That's an honest question. Was she? I
No,
don't think she
no,
was.
she was never referred to as Mama
Mama
T or
Tina.
Mana Tina as
Like,
far as I know.
that's like the closest, because I don't know. So it's like it's just like this battle that women, specifically mothers, have to play. So hopefully, I think that if you're a mother and you're listening to this and you make it to the finals on Survivor, I think you can use that to your advantage and be like, hey, you guys stereotyped me into this thing, didn't want to do it, and here's how I use it to my advantage, X, Y, and Z. So I think that there's a thing.
Yeah, I
We
agree.
had
I
a
think
Oh,
Oh, go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
No.
Well, I just wanted to say we have an interesting comment here. It wasn't a question, but it was a comment that I kind of think is an interesting idea from Ben. Ben Doika. Ben says, what about a 6 super fans, 6 former players, and 6 totally new, like a 6 non-super fan season? So like almost like a heroes, or like almost like a fans versus favorites, but also like a fans versus favorites versus what? Survivor, that's still on?
I really like the concept because I think that the "what" tribe will definitely throw, like, a wrench in everybody else's
Yeah.
plans. However, I do think it'll go like other fans versus favorite seasons where the fans will ultimately fawn over the favorites and will throw their games away unintentionally, but they'll try and align with the favorites, and
Mhm.
the returning players will take advantage of them. That's how I think that season would turn out, and I do think that we might get some interesting moments where some of the "what" players were able to, like, throw a wrench in the plans, but ultimately, I do think that a fan will throw down their game or try and, like, curry favor with a returning player to a fault. But that's just me.
I agree. I think it'd be interesting if it were just 2 tribes and it was just super fans versus what? Survivor's still on? I think that would be interesting.
That is
I don't know,
iconic.
maybe. It also could be horrible. I don't know, but it could be fun. We have another question from Hey Boar 412. They asked, "Do you think it'll be another 7-1-0 vote?"
Hmm, hmm. That's interesting. Wait, hold on. Let's think about this for a second. Because the first 5 seasons of Survivor were all 3 to 4 votes, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't change until Survivor the Amazon. And if we're forgetting everything that happened before season 40 or 40 and before, like they like to do for the new era, we've gotten very similar votes at Final Tribal. So it's interesting that we're following this pattern. I've never drawn this parallel before until this moment. So
Yeah,
it's a little clunky, but
I hate this 7-1-0. I don't like it. If it's 7-1-0, just don't have it be a final 3. Just make it a final 2.
okay, then that's my next question. What was the name of the person who commented?
Hey Boar, I think.
Hey Boar, my question for you in response is, do you think that we should go back to a final 2? That's what I want to know, because personally, I think we should. I think it makes that last vote excruciating. Think back to Survivor Borneo for a second and the fact that Richard threw the immunity challenge so he didn't have to be the one to vote out whoever, because he knew both of them, both our good friend Kelly as well as our good friend rest in peace Rudy, would not his nickname is not rest in peace Rudy. His name is
it
Rudy,
is. That's his name.
just for like just like to clarify. But Richard knew that both of them were going to take him, and so he threw the final immunity challenge. And what I thought was a very innovative strategy for the time, we don't get those hard decisions anymore.
No.
We don't. And
No.
actually, I have a question. Some people think the reason that the final 3 was enacted was because of this man right here, Mr. Terry Dietz from Simsbury, Connecticut, fighter pilot,
Terry.
and immunity challenge beast.
Terry's one of the only like, immunity challenge beasts that I actually really love.
Wait, you love him even though he said to Suri, "Oh, I bet you hit your children."
Okay, I don't love that. You're right. You're right. But I remember when I watched that for the first time, I thought it was like a little bit more interesting to have somebody win so often. Maybe it's because it was like the first time I'd ever seen somebody win so much. And I thought that was kind of cool. I just haven't liked it since, but
well, the first time you saw that probably before then was Kelly Wigglesworth, but she got stomped on in the rowing challenge, and in the words of Suhawk, you sucked on that game.
True. Sorry, but I interrupted you in the middle of your question. You said are you happy that it was enacted because of Terry or what?
Yeah, do you think that the final 3 scenario that we have now is because of Terry Dietz? Because in the seasons that we've had final 2s, those final 2s have been in the same seasons where we've gotten a lot of medevacs. Like I think of Survivor Micronesia and Survivor Cagayan, which, might I add, are some of people's favorite seasons of Survivor. So maybe we should bring back the final 2.
Yeah, maybe we should. Yeah, I honestly, I'm if there's one thing about me about Survivor, it's I am gonna be a conspiracy theorist. I am. Not all the time, but most of the time I will be. I believe that the fire challenge was enacted because of what's his name? Ben. And I just think that production, while I think that production doesn't do as much as in other reality TV shows on Survivor. I mean, it's still like I said 1,000 times, it's still a TV show, so they're gonna want to do something, and so I feel like they do. I mean, they play a hand sometimes, and so if there's a conspiracy theory, I probably believe it, especially if it's a dude to win. So if it's to, so that a dude would win. So yeah, probably. And I just here's my thing about like 7-1-0 votes. It's just like I personally think nowadays in kind of the kumbaya era of Survivor, I think that jury members want to vote correctly. I think that's a big thing for them. And I think they want to, rather than voting for who they think played the best game, they want to make sure that the person that might have 1 or 2 votes doesn't win. I'm not saying all the time, but like it's happened. Season 40 has been 7-1-0, 41 has been 7-1-0, 42 has been 7-1-0, 43 has been 7-1-0. Like they've all been 7-1-0, even Winners at War. Was it 7-1-0 or was it like 8? However many people were on the jury?
It was like 37 to
no, it was Natalie only got 1.
-5.
Yeah.
The square root of 37.
So negative. So No, I thought Natalie only got one. No, I guess I'm thinking of a 0 vote finalist. You're right. You're right, guys. I'm sorry. They're correcting me. It's 12-4-0. But there was a 0 vote finalist, I mean. And it's happened so much. And a lot of times people didn't vote for Michelle because they just didn't want Natalie to win, rather than because they wanted to vote for Tony.
Yeah.
So I just think people are voting based on who they think is going to win versus who they actually want to win, which is not the same thing.
No, not at all. And if we bring it back to this vote for just a hot second, I do want to talk about the fact that Austin does play his amulet idol on himself, and the final vote for Drew is 4-2, unfortunately. Sadly for Drew, he's on his way out. And yeah, that is the end of the Drew saga. And now we can briefly talk about who we think deserves the awards for this episode. So first, we're going to give our award to the social butterfly, the individual we think played the best. And then we're going to give an award out for the driver of the social struggle bus. Okay. Tegla, do you have thoughts, or do you think I should go first? Because I have thoughts.
Drew is winning social butterfly.
He is my social butterfly forever and always.
No, it's obvious. It's got to be D. There's no other answer.
Yeah, no other question or no other answer. It has to be D. She is the social butterfly of the episode and maybe the season.
Yeah. Which I don't think I've even given social butterfly to D at all once, which is insane because I've been so focused on some other people. Sorry, D. Sorry, Emily.
And what about driver of the social struggle bus? Beep, beep.
I don't know because I feel like Austin is the obvious answer. But I think that there's also a compelling argument for Julie, because of the fact that she let herself be on the outs, with D, and kind of did that and kind of gave that power to D. But I feel like if it's the obvious answer, you probably should go with that. So I think I gotta say Austin.
Yeah, I'm with you on that page. It's gotta be Austin. Yeah, unfortunately. But any final words, any final questions, anything on the ether or potentially on TikTok?
I just want to say, this is just a final thought from me. I loved this season. There are people on the internet have mixed feelings, and that's wild to me because I've actually absolutely loved this season. I think that they cast an amazing cast. I've really enjoyed watching it. I really enjoyed getting to know this cast. I've really enjoyed talking about it on the internet with you and with, all of the people who will watch all the time. And I just think it's been a really, really fun season, and I'm very sad that it's coming to a close. I'm really sad.
But you know what that means? The sooner it's over, the sooner we can rewatch it and experience it from the beginning, because it's just as good as watching Survivor Live, rewatching it.
And honestly, sometimes it's better.
It is, because you pick up on stuff that you didn't the first time. Yeah. It's really magical.
Absolutely. But I just, I just have really loved this season. So, what about you? Any final words, final thoughts?
I am so excited to watch this finale. I don't think I've been excited for a finale this much in a long time, because who knows what could happen. Maybe they all gang up on D and Jake uses his idol to try and get D out. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I'm very, very invested. And I'm honestly just excited to see everybody on the jury's outfits and how they're going to show up at tribal council, because I know they're all going to be looking so good.
Yep.
And I know we're not going to get a live reunion this time unless they are changing it up last minute. But I'm still excited for the champagne and the pizza. Maybe maybe we should get champagne and pizza when we review. Oh my
Please. It's
goodness.
It's not champagne. I've been drinking Martinelli's sparkling cider this whole time.
Well, I think for next episode, we've got to get ourselves some of that.
I drank a whole bottle of Martinelli's, which just means I've essentially streamlined sugar into my veins.
I don't think there is anything better you could have done, and I fully support you. But thank you all so much for tuning in to Survivor Social. And now more than ever, we love hearing all of your comments, your questions, your feedback, all of the above. So pepper us with comments every possible way. Send us things at Survivor Socialites at Instagram, Survivor Social Pod at gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram and on Spotify and YouTube and all of the things. And we will check back with you next week for the finale of Survivor 45. Thank you so much, and we will catch you next week. Adios. Bye.